what? I've been watching you for the last hour. I mean, I appreciate you not playing anymore, but you've been running around like you are playing. This is quite a scene. You seem to be having a lot of fun at it.
I do. I enjoy it. I got here at 6:30 this morning to do all the morning stuff, and went and had some lunch and came back this afternoon to see a lot of people. Everybody's been so nice to me to give me a chance to talk about some of the things that I'm involved with, and it's my way of getting my chance during this particular day to come back to a lot of people and say thanks for letting me spend some time with you. And heck, is there anything better to talk about than a Super Bowl? If you've won one, there's nothing better, trust me.
You said you were talking about things that are important to you. Why don't you share what some of those are, Joe?
Well, one of the things that I'm involved with is a campaign regarding AAA, which is abdominal aortic aneurysms. My dad has one and was diagnosed with one. And what I'm trying to do is get people in their late 50s and 60s as a part of a physical to get what's called a vascular ultrasound, which is located right in here. Women will understand it because it's like an ultrasound for a pregnant lady. For guys, it's 10 minutes, it's non-invasive, and what you're looking for is the artery that carries blood from the heart to the lower extremities. If it has a bulge in it, that could be an aneurysm. You want to see if that's checked out, and you want to make sure it gets checked out. We have a website, which is findtheanswers.org. You can log on, take a little risk quiz, see if there's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, possibly smoking in the family. It could be something that would indicate that you might have a problem. So I send people to the website. I ask them when they get their physicals to make sure that they ask for that. And I ask the young people out there, hey, listen, think about your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your aunt, your uncle, whoever it might be. If they're reaching that age, encourage them to get that physical and make sure they ask for the vascular ultrasound.
Let me tell you about our audience here, Joe, and I think that's a great message for everybody you're talking to, and I know that you're talking to, obviously, a lot of stations and media outlets, but I want to tell you what makes what you're doing now even more unique. I am the director of a sports media and broadcasting academy. I'm a longtime radio and television personality in Pittsburgh, but I am a director of a sports media and broadcasting academy in western Pennsylvania, Midland, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh.
Where everybody thinks I was from anyway.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second. But what you're looking at right now would be students from around Pennsylvania that are signed on listening to you and listening to the message. Many kids are not even part of the school, but a lot are. And the reason I bring it up is because they're the ones who I believe are the best to plant the seeds with in the message you're talking. In other words, a lot of people, 50, 60, it's going to be more of a sell for you. You're putting into their minds early on the right way to go.
Well, not only that, but the people in their lives, their family, their moms, their dads, their aunts, their uncles, their grandparents. These are people that you want around. And if somebody's smoking, well, you're not going to stop them from smoking, but you can at least make sure that they get to the doctor and see if there's an aneurysm. My dad's 90 years old. If my father hadn't had heart surgery and continued to get physicals, I would have never known. I wouldn't have my dad here today had it not been for the fact that there were continuing physicals that they went and looked for this specific thing. We did a joint venture with Kmart through the course of September and December this year. Of 2,000 people that we screened, we found over 100 abdominal aortic aneurysms.
Wow.
So 100 lives were affected out of 2,000 that never knew they had the condition at all. It's called a silent killer. A million people walking around with it, they don't even know it.
Joe, I want to ask you about, you mentioned about Western Pennsylvania ties. Two things. Talk about how people and why they think that you're from there. And second of all, again, I've taken thousands of calls over the years, and I've had one refrain. People think back home that you hate the Steelers.
I don't.
Set the record straight.
I don't. I love the Steelers. My secretary, Sandy Sedlak, is from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Sandy will not talk to me because I did not pick the Steelers to win this particular week. I love the Steelers. I love Ben Roethlisberger. When you walk into that building, I was telling somebody this earlier, when you walk into that building that the Steelers are in, you get a sense that this is class. This is professionalism. This is pride. The Steelers have the greatest traveling fan base in the history of football. I know Packer fans are loyal and Redskin fans are loyal, but I'm telling you, there isn't anything like Steeler fans. So when the Steelers go to a Super Bowl, everybody says, boy, that place is going to be very pro-Steeler. The reason why people think I'm from Pennsylvania, Joe Montana, Dan Marino, Joe Namath. It seemed like everybody that played quarterback in the National Football League was from Western Pennsylvania. I happened to grow up in Jersey, but the water flowed down towards me, so it really didn't matter. Right. But I listen. I think the world of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I want to ask you, Joe, we're going to let you fly because we know your schedule's busy. I have always enjoyed your work professionally. I always have. I've always learned a lot. I've always found you comfortable to listen to. And watching you back on NFL Network this year, I think was a benefit to the network and for a lot of people who use their product, so to speak. Talk about what it was like to get back in the mix there.
It was really fun. I made the decision when I left ESPN that I didn't want to go do college football.
Right.
I never knew if I'd get a chance to be back in the professional game, but it's someplace I wanted to be. I think, I spent my life as the doctor of professional football. I didn't really want to go someplace else. I mean, I'd established an identity here. I know a lot of the players, the coaches. I felt very comfortable in this environment, and so I decided that that's where I wanted to go. When the opportunity with the NFL Network came up, I appreciated it so much to do the show that we have, Playbook, and then to be able to do the broadcasting on Thursday nights with Matt and Bob. And by the way, Bob Papa and I will be doing the world feed to about 180 countries during Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday. So the broadcasting part of it still continues. And I love and I appreciate what you're saying about the knowledge part of it. I try and approach broadcasting this way. People can see with their eyes, and that tells them what happened. Having played the game, it's my opportunity to try and explain to them why it happened. And I always wanted to take the role of a teacher, and I appreciate you saying that.
Well, that's no problem, and I think it's great for the class and the students and all through the world that's listening right now. But I will say this, I didn't play the game at that level, obviously, but I always felt that there's a place for telling people something they don't know. Not just what they didn't read in the paper, not just what they see on TV or hear on the radio. It takes a lot of work, a lot of research. I've done that through the years, and I share that with you, to be perfectly honest, that you fulfill the experience, I think, by giving them things they don't know.
Well, the other thing is, too, is if you prepare and study for something, you're probably going to get more acquired knowledge than you're ever going to need.
Right.
But there may be one piece of that knowledge that separates you from everyone else. I do 50-plus hours a week in preparation for a game on Thursday night, a 3-hour game. And if it's a good game, I won't get to 95% of it. But there might be that one thing that I picked up, that one little item of information that I can share that explains something, and all of a sudden somebody says, or it's in the paper the next day. Joe Theismann talked about Troy Polamalu, not necessarily just in the run game, but him as a pass cover. And in Super Bowl 45, we didn't think he could cover this well. We saw the spectacular interceptions, but wow, he can really cover slot receivers. This was an element of his game that nobody really knew existed. Well, unless you study, and unless you learn, you're not going to have that information available to you.
Again, we've always said that, and I tell the kids at the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School that a lot of it we have an iceberg, and the iceberg is our mascot. I tell them that 5 or 10% they can see is the 5 or 10% people see or hear when you and I talk or they read the paper. It's the 95% nobody else ever sees that gets us to 5 or 10.
Sure, all you need to do is think of the Titanic.
Yeah, I do. They do.
They could see the tip.
What about this? What about this scene?
I loved it. I mean, the morning session was very cold. The air conditioner or the heating didn't work, so for about 3 hours it was 45 degrees in here. But now I haven't even taken my jacket off. I've just sort of left it on. But I love the fact that so many people are out. This is now a Super Bowl. It feels like a Super Bowl. It has that bigness to it that you really look for.
Yeah, yesterday was a little slower, but it's big tonight. Joe, really appreciate it.
Thanks,
it was an honor having you on.
Okay,
thanks
you.
Joe Theismann.